The Rim to Rim pack is being called backpack perfection. And because its 6 front pockets and pouches let you keep the essentials close, and the fully insulated hydration compartment lets you keep things cold, it's easy to see why. Get the unisex, one-size-fits-most 22-liter Rim to Rim pack with free shipping for a limited time at brightangeloutfitters.com. At Bright Angel Outfitters, we exist to help you hike your best hike. Well, you never know where life is going to take you, and when things don't go your way, look for the silver lining. It's probably there somewhere. Yeah, some simple truths that we've all heard at one time or another, and on a recent canyon adventure, both of those truths came together and led to this episode we're doing right now. My name is Brian Special, and this is the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show presented by Bright Angel Outfitters. All right, a few Sundays ago, a gentleman by the name of Steve Coppen was on my front doorstep in Phoenix, picking up a bladder and soft flask he'd purchased to add to the Rim to Rim pack he'd already bought from us. Steve and his daughter, Georgia, had just landed after a long flight from London, and they were on their way to the Grand Canyon, where they had secured 4 nights at Phantom Ranch. They were excited. We had a nice conversation, and off they went. Well, 3 days later, on Wednesday, I headed up to the canyon myself for what was supposed to be a 2-day Rim to Rim to Rim. And when I passed through Phantom around 2 a.m., I actually wondered how Steve and Georgia were faring. Well, this was the Rim to Rim to Rim where I pulled the plug after finishing the first crossing later that morning. And after finally getting some sleep, I turned my attention to how I would get back to my car on the South Rim the next day. This was now on Thursday. And as I was sitting in one of those rustic wooden chairs in front of the lodge, checking the Trans-Canyon shuttle schedule, and had just realized there wasn't a shuttle available until Saturday, 2 days later, I kid you not, it was right at that time that I looked up and saw Steve and Georgia walking right past me. After getting their attention, I learned that the reservations at Phantom had been canceled because of a waterline break. So here they were, making the best of it, checking out the North Rim. Well, it wasn't long before Steve said they were heading back to the South Rim the next morning, and he offered me a ride, which I, of course, accepted. What followed was a delightful 5-hour ride where we talked about everything from royalty to Taylor Swift to George's job as a London police officer, and, of course, Steve's obsession with the Grand Canyon. How obsessed is he? Well, let's just say that on a holiday during COVID, after putting together a Grand Canyon jigsaw puzzle, Steve served his family Phantom Ranch stew for their holiday meal, using, the exact recipe they use at Phantom, which he had found online. Well, we did stop at Jacob Lake on the way out, because the cookies at Jacob Lake Inn, well, that's a canyon tradition they had not yet experienced. And that was also an excuse to sit down and talk canyon with the father-daughter duo who'd traveled halfway around the world to be there. This is the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show presented by Bright Angel Outfitters. Okay, so we are sitting out here at Jacob Lake Inn, one of my favorite places in the entire world. I'm serious when I say that. This is a place that's kind of like the North Rim is. It's kind of stuck back in time. You've got the incredible cookies, and we're sitting out here in the middle of all these old rustic cabins in this gazebo type structure, and there are just pine trees all around. The birds are chirping. It's got just North Rim vibes, even though we're 45 miles away from the North Rim. We're on our way back to the South Rim. First of all, these cookies. We picked up a 6-pack of the cookies. Georgia, what did we go with?
I went with the snickerdoodle. I'd never had it before, and it was amazing. Brought back memories of when my nan would bake cakes when I was little, and she'd let me lick the bowl.
And Steve went with more of the traditional approach.
Oatmeal and raisin.
Oatmeal raisin. I went with peanut butter chocolate chip. Guys, if you don't know what the Jacob Lake Inn cookies are all about, this place has been here for over 100 years. And again, 45 miles away from the North Rim. When you're on your way in or on your way out, this is where you stop for cookies. They've got all kinds, probably 20 or 30 different varieties, different kinds of cookies. And you stop and you grab yourself a little sweet treat for the long drive back to the South Rim or wherever you're going, or the drive to the North Rim. It's a nice kind of like a reward after a long, hard hike. But so we're sitting out here enjoying these cookies, and you guys Steve and Georgia. Tell us where you guys are from.
We're from UK, down south, county of Sussex. I live in a town called Arundel.
How close to London?
Arundel is about an hour and a half from London, isn't it?
Yeah, by train.
And I live in Brighton, which is like a straight line directly south from London, so just over an hour from London.
And we managed to connect today because I finished my rim to rim, which was supposed to be a rim to rim to rim, but I aborted the return portion of it. And so I was sitting up at the North Rim Lodge yesterday trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do, how I was going to get myself back to the South Rim, because I was not going to hike back. And it turns out that the shuttle, the TransCanyon shuttle during the middle of the summer only runs once a day, and I wasn't going to be able to get that till 2 o'clock on Saturday, which was 2 days later, so I was going to have to hang out on the North Rim until then. My parents were staying up at a campground close to here at Jacob Lake. I didn't want them to have to come all the way back and pick me up and then take me all the way back around and then come. I didn't want them to have to do all that. It just so happened that I happened to look up, and walking past me were Steve and Georgia. Okay, what kind of sense does that make? Well, 4 days before, Steve was on my doorstep in Phoenix picking up accessories for the Rim to Rim pack that he had purchased a few months ago. And he and Georgia were here to visit the Grand Canyon and go on a hike down to Phantom Ranch and spend a few nights at Phantom Ranch. And because of a waterline break, their reservations were canceled. And they were left with not being able to fulfill the highlight of their entire trip. And instead, they came up to the North Rim, and they just happened to be walking by me. And I was like, that's Steve. And I said, Steve. And it was just like, I just met you 4 days ago in Phoenix, and now here you are on the North Rim. And it also just happened to turn out that the very next day, they were headed to the South Rim, which is today. And so I was able to bum a ride. And so I'm bumming along with these guys. They're taking me back to my car in the South Rim so I can drive home. You just never know where life is going to take you, do you, Steve?
No, something always comes up. Yeah.
You were probably a little bit surprised when you heard someone calling your name in the North Rim of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I couldn't work it out at first. I thought, someone calling me? And I turned around and there you were.
And I immediately called Georgia by the wrong name. I called her Brandy.
You did. You called me Brandy. But that's going to be my name now in Arizona. So.
That's your Grand Canyon, Arizona name. Okay, so guys, just tell us, Steve, you go through so much to plan these trips. You're a huge canyon aficionado, even though you live on the other side of the world. What was the plan for this trip?
I spent pretty much the best part of the last year checking every single day. Is there a room? Is there a cabin at the bottom? Bit by bit, picked it up so that we had 4 nights scheduled for the bottom. We were going to go down South Kaibab. We were going to stay at Phantom. We were going to do little side hikes from there up Clear Creek Trail, up to Ribbon Falls. We were going to do the river trail. And then we were going to hike back up Bright Angel. And I'd spent the best part of the year hyping up to Georgia. She's really looking forward to it. And then we get to Phoenix and we start getting these emails about the pipeline break, and we hope to have it fixed by the 19th. So we're going, okay, we're going down 21st. Then we get another email. It's pushed back to the 20th. We're still okay. Then yesterday it got pushed back again, and then we called in and they said it's probably not going to get fixed, and they cancelled the whole thing on us. So here we are. We have to be philosophical about it. There's nowhere to stay at the bottom. We can't do it this time round. The good news is I have a reservation for next year. 1 night only at the moment. But we'll keep trying. We'll try to rebuild the trip and do it again next year.
How disappointing was it for you when this all happened? Or was it more disappointing for your dad, who's this intense canyon lover?
I am gutted that we're not going to go to the bottom. I really, really wanted to go, but yeah, like you said, it's just not meant to be this time, and you've got a reservation for next year, so we'll be back to try again for sure. What my dad didn't say though was when we were trying to book for this trip at Phantom Ranch, there was a period of about 3 months where one of the nights of our stay down at the bottom, we were going to have to move out of the cabins and camp for a night because there was no availability. So every single day my dad was checking and calling me up saying, okay, I'm checking again, I'll let you know later. And I'm like, Dad, I'm at work, I can't talk right now. But yeah, we got a cabin in the end for all 4 nights, didn't we?
Yeah.
We were going to have to be in a tent, I think, for one of them.
Yeah.
But
And that would have been fine.
it would have all been part of the adventure, yeah.
Yeah. It would have been fine in a tent, but cabin's a bit more luxurious.
Yeah. I'm not used to, I don't know, what's down there? Snakes, scorpions, spiders.
Heat.
Yes, definitely.
Now, Georgia, you did get some pretty exciting news, though, while you were at the North Rim or while you've been on this trip. Tell us about what you got going on back in England.
Oh, yeah. So yesterday I passed my 2-year probation for my job. I work in the emergency services in central London, so it was a really big deal that I passed my probation yesterday. It's been a long 2 years.
George is a police officer in London. Travels, a 4-hour commute every day to be a police officer in London. That's got to be a pretty exciting life.
It's really cool. I mean, you definitely have good days and bad days, but it's so worth it, the good days. It's a difficult job, but I love it.
Steve, you got a pretty interesting backstory as well. You were in the kind of like me in the TV producing world for a long time, except you did it on a worldwide scale.
I was based in Moscow, in Russia, during the Glasnost Perestroika era. So I was there when Reagan came over. I was there when the USSR fell apart. We did a lot of exciting stuff over there and travelled around, saw a lot of real interesting things. And I guess that's where I get the sense of adventure from. You know, one thing I learned is pretty crap things can happen, but pretty much always something comes along to sort you out. You know, just relax, take it careful, make sure you've got what you need, and usually something happens to get you sorted out.
Yes. So the Grand Canyon or the Phantom Ranch thing falls apart, but you just have to, because when I met up with you yesterday, you weren't like, oh, this is terrible that this happened. You guys just seemed to have a really positive attitude. You had your beer and you were just going to hang out on the patio at the North Rim and make the best of everything.
There's nothing you can do about it. There's no sense crying over spilled milk. You know, Phantom Ranch is closed. We'll just have to try again, won't we? I mean, I have actually won the lottery a couple of times. I have managed to pick up cancellations here and there, so it's not impossible. So if you're trying to get a room at the bottom, you know, do what everybody says. Just keep checking, and I mean check several times a day, every day. You know, when we had the missing night, I checked literally at 8:30, and there was no availability for the missing night. And I sat down at my desk to start my day's work and thought, oh, I'll just one more check. That was 8:35. And in those 5 minutes, somebody had cancelled or something had come up, and I was able to get that missing night. So it works, you know. Keep checking. If you want to get a cabin or a bunk at the bottom, keep checking.
Where did this Grand Canyon obsession come from? Not just from checking the reservations and trying to win lotteries, but where was this born? Because you live on the other side of the world, and obviously the Grand Canyon is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. But where did your obsession come from?
I've always enjoyed getting way off the beaten track. I used to hike around on the islands in Greece a lot with my friends in real remote locations, and we always found real interesting things. And then Georgia and I came to the canyon as tourists, I think it was in 2002.
Something like
that. Yeah.
2 or 3.
And somebody said, oh, there's a hotel at the bottom. And I thought, oh, that's pretty neat. Yeah, do that one day. And then it kind of got pushed to the back of my mind for quite a long time because lots of other things going on in my life. And then 2017, out of the blue, that shot back into my mind on a Sunday morning. And I said to a friend, do you fancy doing that? He said, yes. So we called the reservation line, and as luck would have it, they had a cancellation. So we got one night at Phantom Ranch, and we went down South Kaibab and up Bright Angel. And in that 24 hours, I knew straight away I wanted to do this again. We met so many interesting people. We saw so many interesting things. The challenge was good. It was challenging, but not impossible. And just thoroughly enjoyed it. So the following year, I roped in my cousin from New York. He's Australian, but was living in New York at the time. He brought along his brother-in-law from Australia. I flew in from London, and somehow the three of us managed to rendezvous at Las Vegas airport within 30 minutes of each other. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then we did North Rim to South Rim We had 3 nights in the cabin at the bottom, so we did it sort of the easy way, but the fun way. And that was in August, so it was real hot. But we made our preparations. We had plenty of water. I think the only mistake we made was one person didn't bring a headlamp with him, and so we just put him in the middle as we went down in the darkness, and that worked. And I just can't get the place out of my head after that. And my wife thinks I'm mad. There you go.
Is that true, Georgia?
Yeah. Definitely. I think she worries a lot about my dad doing that hike down, especially in the heat over here. So, and there's no signal, so she doesn't know if he's going to make it back up or not. It does worry her an awful lot, but I can understand why he loves it so much. Yeah.
What does he have back home to commemorate the Grand Canyon? I imagine that there's got to be some, I don't know, pictures, paintings, stuff like that up in the house.
Yeah, just about everything, especially on my dad's desk where he works. He's got just pictures of the Grand Canyon everywhere, like little ornaments from the Grand Canyon, his mouse pad, his screensaver, everything is Grand Canyon themed. He loves it.
What is it you think that when you lay eyes on the Grand Canyon, what is it that just grabs you, that just jumps into your soul? Is the vastness of it, the beauty of it? What do you think it is?
There's only a couple of places I've felt a real connection to the planet, and this is one of them. The other one is Africa. And every single time I come here, something new happens, or you meet new people, or you find a new place to go, and it's just great fun.
We've spoken to so many people since we've been here as well. There's people from all over the world here, and I love that. We're hearing different languages when we go and get food, and just thinking we're not the only people who have travelled from far and wide to come to this place. It's so special, and everyone's so friendly and wants to share stories, and some of them have been here before, and you were exchanging stories, weren't you, yesterday with some people who've been here before. But yeah, I just think it brings people from all over the world together who have this mutual love of this really special place. I think that's incredible. Yeah,
and you were mentioning it was your first time at the North Rim, and it wasn't what you expected at all.
No, I kind of thought it was going to be similar to the South Rim. I wasn't expecting it to be, I don't know how to explain it, it's really sort of alpine. The climate here is a lot cooler. It almost feels like a kind of ski type place with the log cabins and the trees and things. You kind of half expect a bear to stroll by, but I know there's no bears around here. But yeah, it's very, very different to the South Rim. I like it a lot though. Definitely want to come back.
How much does it mean to you, Steve, to be able to come here and share a place like this with Georgia?
Oh, it's immense. I mean, we've done quite a lot of things together. This is right at the top of the list as one of the best things, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. She's travelled since she was tiny. She had her first passport when she was 3 days old, and she thinks nothing of getting on an aeroplane to go the other side of the world for the weekend, do you?
I went to Sydney from London for a weekend once, all the way to Australia, and I would do it again. I would absolutely do it again, no regrets.
I am really glad though that I got to bring Georgia here, because the first time we came in 2002 she was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And she was into Harry Potter big time. So her first reaction back then was, "Oh, it's a big hole in the ground, Dad."
That's not true. That's not true. I think I was absolutely amazed by it when I first saw it. But I think after a day or two, I felt like it was the same thing again, but I was too young to really appreciate it properly. So I've been back many times since, even without my dad as well, because I used to be cabin crew, and we would fly to Vegas. Vegas was one of our routes, so I always used to do detours out to the canyon and encourage the cabin crew to come and check it out because it wasn't far. So I've flown over it a lot, and I've been around the rim a lot, but I've never been into it. And yesterday was the first time I've ever hiked down beyond the rim. So I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of a struggle, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, what did you guys do? Read and react. You had to adjust. You couldn't go to Phantom Ranch. So from the North Rim, what did you guys do yesterday?
So yesterday we went down the North Kaibab. We went down to just short of Supai Tunnel, and then it was a bit hot and Georgie was struggling, so we made the call. Yeah. Turn around, go back, be sensible, stay safe. And then it took us about half an hour to go back up, maybe an hour. Going up slow.
Yeah, I think it was more like an hour.
Yeah.
Going up was harder. It was just the heat. I hadn't been feeling very well as well, so I wasn't feeling 100%. But the heat really, really got to me. And there was a point when I actually started to feel a bit dizzy. I'm not good with edges and heights anyway, but I was pushing on, wasn't I? But when I started to feel dizzy, I thought, I shouldn't carry on.
Yeah, and she actually felt a little bit sick yesterday as well. And so we said, that's it. There's no shame turning around. Call it a day, go back, stay safe.
A lot of people were turning around a lot sooner than we did as well. We went further, didn't we?
Yeah, a little bit further.
But lots of people were turning around. I think the heat was just too much.
But you were coming up there yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Round about that time, I would imagine.
Yeah, earlier. Yeah, I came up at I surfaced at just after 9.
Okay.
I'd started at 11 p.m. the night before, and it was still brutally hot at the bottom. My whole thing, as you know, is the heat mitigation, trying to figure out ways to not be in that direct sun in the warmer months, and especially in July like it is right now. But I still, starting at 11 p.m., I was like, okay, I'm going to start at 11, I'm going to hike through the night. I don't like hiking all the way across the canyon in the dark. It's just not really enjoyable.
Yeah.
But it's the only way to do it, I feel like, or one of the only ways to do it in the summertime, because it's going to be the coolest part of the day, and I don't want to deal with that heat. But it was still surprisingly 80s and 90s at the bottom. It still had a little bit of an impact on me. Of course, when you don't have the direct sun overhead, that makes it better. But by the time I was, stumbling out yesterday, I wasn't feeling so hot, again. And I don't feel it was like the sun started to come up when I was around Cottonwood, Manzanita. But that was the most pleasant part of the hike, because it was still relatively cool going up the North Rim. I didn't have the direct sun on me. But by the time I finished, I felt terrible. And that's when I made the decision, even though I was supposed to hike back to the South Rim the next day and complete a rim to rim to rim over 2 days, I was like, you know what? I just don't think this is smart. I'm going to listen to my body. It hasn't been reacting well to the warm weather, to the heat. And I'm just not going to do it. And I'll come back and do it October, November, and do R3s and rim to rims then. So it does make me wonder, though, with how Georgia was affected by the heat just by going down the Supai Tunnel, if maybe this wouldn't have been such a good idea to go all the way down to Phantom Ranch. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I mean, part of the idea of doing the little Supai Tunnel thing now as a test hike for her, to see how she coped with the edges and overall whether it was up to it. And I think on the basis of yesterday, we would probably have wound up not going down anyway, because she struggled, didn't you?
It was a real struggle for me, yeah.
We had figured that it was only a short hike yesterday. There's a lot of shade at the top of the North Kaibab Trail, so we figured, we should be okay. But there's a lot of sun on the top of the North Kaibab Trail as well. And those short stretches in the sun with that incline, that's a killer. And
it was so intense.
Yeah.
It was like you would walk maybe 100 feet and find the tiniest patch of shade, and it was such a relief to get that shade, but you would have to stop at such short intervals to take a break because that heat was just beating down. It was really, really intense.
Yeah. So anyway, the plan had been to go down South Kaibab early in the morning with headlamps on, and that would have made the fear of heights a bit easier for her, because when you go in the dark you don't see the drops, etc. But I still think we would have probably made the call not to go anyway, based on yesterday's hike down to Supai. So really, Georgia still wants to go down.
I do, yeah.
But I think she's
really
going to wind up going down on a mule or possibly on a rafting trip.
I'm getting to the bottom one way or another.
Well, maybe this was a blessing. I mean, because even honestly, Steve, going down South Kaibab, no matter when you do it, it's hotter and more difficult than it is, in my opinion, going down North Kaibab.
Oh yeah.
Just because of the environment, it's just hot, barren, desert-like conditions going down, and maybe you guys would have been pushing it too hard to go all the way to the river.
I agree, and like I say, I think we probably would have made the call not to go anyway. So pipeline breakers may be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because at least it meant I got a refund.
Yeah. There's a lesson to be learned
Oh, yes.
in all this. And I appreciate Georgia sitting here saying that this was becoming too much and it was going to be too hot, just on the hike that you did. It's okay to not push yourself past the point where you can't get yourself out of trouble.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay.
Yeah.
We had the situation with Scott Sims that we did a whole show on recently, who pushed himself, it seemed, way too hard. His whole thing was, I'm going to the bottom no matter what. And he ended up as one of the 4 deaths that we've had in the last.
Really sad.
It's very sad, but I think the people who were with him would have said that he was pushing too hard and he should have turned around and gone back, or should have known better from the beginning. So there's a real, I think, almost, I don't know if I want to say it's a maturity, but the self-awareness to realize that maybe this isn't such a good idea, and to eject, to pull the ejection handle before you get yourself in too much trouble, before you go too far.
Well, there's absolutely no shame in making the call to turn back.
Right.
No shame whatsoever. And you can always take the lesson from having had to make that decision, and you can always try again another time, perhaps train better, perhaps prepare better, perhaps use resources more effectively, like use the shade tracker, plan your timing carefully, read everything you can. Read that Over the Edge, the Death in Grand Canyon book. That's such a useful resource. Listen to your podcast. That is such a useful resource. Just plan, and then if it doesn't work on the day, don't push beyond a sensible limit. Turn around if you have to. There's no shame in that. Your life matters more, and getting home safe matters more than getting to the bottom.
I mean, for me, I think I was quite surprised at how much I struggled with it, because back home, I'm hardly a stranger to the outdoors. Like, I spend half my time back home out in muddy fields and my wellies, crossing countryside all the time. And I thought I'd be all right, but the heat, for me, that was what changed it completely for me. And yeah, it was too much.
I think no matter how many times you hear us talk about it, because we talk about it on this show all the time, the heat, how intense it is. But I think it's so easy to be in another place, to be halfway around the world, or to be in another state, whatever the case might be. And just think to yourself as your date's approaching and it's summertime that, I'll just deal with it when I get there. I'll be fine. I should be fine. This shouldn't be a big deal. But there is something that is different about that dry oven-like heat at the Grand Canyon. Isn't that what you found? Is it a different kind of heat almost?
It's exactly like that kind of heat when you're roasting something in the oven at home and you open the oven to check on it and that heat hits you in the face.
Right.
It's like that kind of heat, but surrounding you and constantly. It's almost unbearable. So yeah, you have to come prepared for that.
How fun is it for you to, we asked your dad about this, but how fun is it for you to be able to come on these trips with Dad? And I don't think you're appeasing him in any way, but obviously you're feeding his love for this obsession of the Grand Canyon, and it's got to be fun for you to come along.
Yeah, definitely. My dad and I have done many trips to lots of different places, but this one is one we keep coming back to, isn't it? It's a really special place for you, and yeah, I definitely get my adventurous side from my dad, that's for sure. But yeah, we've both got places in the world that are really special to us, aren't they? Grand Canyon is for you. It's special to me too, but yeah, Grand Canyon is your special place and New Zealand is mine, so I'll be taking him there one day.
Perfect. And you got to figure out a way now to get your wife and Georgia, your mother, out here to the Grand Canyon. For some reason, she doesn't. She thinks. What'd you say? She thinks you're mad.
She thinks I'm mad because I keep coming back to the same place. But she's afraid to fly.
Wait, she's afraid to fly, and you're afraid of heights. And so, Georgia, you were just kind of doomed, weren't you?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I'm afraid of heights, but I've got a way of coping with it here, and that is, I keep my eyes firmly fixed on the inside of the trail. And if you look at my GoPro videos, you'll see I'm always to the extreme inside of the trail. But that gets me there, and that's the main thing. The worst bit I've done here is coming down North Kaibab through the Needle. That is right at the limit of my tolerance.
Intense.
And I probably could do that again, but there's enough other stuff here. I don't need to do that again.
So how are you going to get your wife out here?
All right, so I do want her to come and see it at least once so she can understand why I've been so obsessed with it all these years. And I figure if I can get her on a plane to Boston, I know that because we've done that. And if I can get her on a plane to Boston, then we can drive from there to Chicago. From Chicago, there's one of these nice luxury trains. I think it's the Southwest Chieftain, I think it's called. That takes us down to Los Angeles, and so we can break off anywhere there, get a hire car and come up to the Grand Canyon. And then do the whole thing in reverse again. So I'm going to try and get her to do that. So she at least sees it, and if she does it, we'll stay in El Tovar, and we'll have a nice room with a view over the canyon, but do it the real nice way.
It's just getting her here, isn't it? Once she's here, I think she would absolutely love it, and she would understand why you love it so much as well.
Hope so.
But it's just the journey we need to help her out with.
I assume that with everything that's happened, that the next trip has already started to percolate in your mind.
Yeah, the next trip has started to percolate. I do have one night reserved at Phantom Ranch for next July, so the daily checking will resume when I get home, and see if we can pick up 1 or 2 extra nights to make that into a slightly longer trip, because I can do the down and straight back up the next day. There's no problem with that, and that's a great trip to do if anyone wants to try and do that. Down one day, back up the next, that's also fine. But when you have that option of staying at the bottom, you have the option, you can do the Ribbon Falls thing, you can do the Clear Creek Trail, and you can just rest and prepare yourself for the climb out as well. And it gives yourself the best possible opportunity of making that climb out without going, oh my God, why am I doing this? So it gives you enough time to sort of rest, relax, prepare, and still do some of the other bits at the bottom.
Will you be part of this trip, Georgia?
Hopefully. Can I come too?
Yeah, of course you can. There's 4 bunks down there.
Sounds good to me.
And will Jacob Lake cookies be a part of that if you ever come back this way?
I think that's going to have to be a trip tradition when we come out here again. I remembered something as you were talking as well just then. When the pandemic hit, you had to cancel a trip out here, didn't you?
Yeah.
But we were at home, spending our days at home, not knowing when lockdown was going to end, and we were spending more time together than we had done for ages, weren't we? But we bought a Grand Canyon puzzle.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad cooked beef stew one night, which was the same as the one that they do at Phantom Ranch at the bottom, so that me and my mum could try
recipe,
it.
Yeah.
So it was his way of bringing it to us.
Oh, and we actually had Phantom Ranch stew for our Christmas dinner that year as well.
No wonder your wife thinks you're mad, Steve.
Well, she likes the stew.
Okay.
She likes the stew. So, yeah.
Last thing I have to ask you, while I've got you here, the shameless self-promotion, it has to happen. You've given me the opportunity. What have you thought of the Rim to Rim pack so far?
Okay, I really liked it. So I took it on the North Kaibab Trail yesterday. I really like it. It sits high on your shoulders. There's no weight pulling down on the small of your back at the back. The pockets on the front. Everything's quick and easily accessible. And in actual fact, yesterday, we were able to help out. There was a lady coming up. She was in some distress. She was with her husband. He was getting ready to run up to the top and get more water because they had hoped to refill at Supai, but of course the water was off. Because we were doing a little test hike, I was there. I still had 5 litres of water with me, so I was able to help her out using one of the pockets off the front. It's a really neat backpack, and my old one is going to be consigned to history. I was going to leave my old one. I was going to take it down and leave it at the ranger station for somebody else in the future to have. But of course that's not happening now. But there you go. But I really like the Rim to Rim pack, so I will endorse it for you.
Thank you for saying that. I think, as you guys would say, my response to that is brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you.
I'm going to need to get one too for next time.
I think so.
Yeah.
Steve Coppen and his daughter, Georgia. They did get me safely back to my car, and I'm so grateful for the lift, but I'm even more thankful for the conversation and to have 2 new friends over in the UK. By the way, Steve told me he drives a school bus in the mornings, and that's when he's playing this show. So maybe we're helping inspire a new generation of canyon lovers through the man who simply must be the biggest canyon lover in England. Okay, Coach Arnie time. This week, our resident exercise physiologist and canyon vet is talking about hip mobility.
Hey guys, this is Coach Arnie with another Grand Canyon tip of the week. And I want to thank Brian for allowing me to share some wisdom with you guys. Today, I am taking a question from one of the members of the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Facebook page, Lisa Anderson. She asked me about hip mobility, and I thought, well, that's a great question because it's something that I'm constantly dealing with in my own situation. So let me explain a couple things first. Two terms, anterior pelvic tilt and posterior pelvic tilt. Anterior pelvic tilt means that your pelvis is leaning forward, tips forward. Posterior pelvic tilt means your pelvis is leaning backwards. So what does that mean? If you have anterior pelvic tilt, it means you have tight quadricep muscles. Those are those strong muscles in the front of your thigh. And normally those are tight. They pull you forward. On posterior pelvic tilt, it means you have tight hamstrings, which pulls the pelvic backwards. So what do we need to do? We need to focus on what I call pelvic stability. If our the pelvis is neutral, which means it doesn't lean one way or the other, your muscles will be able to work much better. Your hip mobility will be improved with the right kind of strength and mobility in those quads and hamstrings. So you need to focus on building strong hip flexors first. That's the muscle that crosses over the hip joint area there. Those muscles, when they are strengthened properly, they have proven that people that have strong hip flexors run faster, jump higher. Not that we're going to be doing that in our 60s or 50s or whatever we are, but we will be better canyon hikers, especially on the downhill. So we want to find movements that work the hip flexors, and we want to do them properly, and we want to work them hard and build those muscles up. We want to build strong and mobile quads. We want to find movements that help us build strong and mobile quads. You heard me right. Doing them both at the same time. You don't have to do yoga and then go do strength training or vice versa, but you can find movements that will work both of them at the same time. And the same goes for your hamstrings. You need to find movements that will work both the strength and the mobility of your hamstrings at the same time. And that will create an atmosphere of stability. And then on top of all that, when you're working those glutes, those are those muscles you sit on. When you build strong glutes, that kind of holds it all together. And that gives you that power because glutes are your hiking muscles. They're your hiking muscles. And the hamstrings are your braking muscles. And the quadriceps are the muscles that slow you down when you're coming downhill. They all work together. So we got to build pelvic stability. It will also give you better hip mobility, I promise. I know this was a little long, but there's a lot to this, but this will give you a place to start. So think about that when you're picking your exercises. Think about that when you're doing your exercises. Think about pelvic stability, and you will build hip mobility. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.
Coach Arnie's contact information is in the show notes. You can also find him daily in our new Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show Facebook group. That's where you'll find me, Coach, and just about everyone you've ever heard on this show. It's a growing, thriving community of canyon crazies sharing information and inspiration. And you are all invited. Just search for the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show on Facebook and join the conversation. Hey, the Rim to Rim Pack is our new 22-liter one-size unisex day pack designed through my hundreds of miles below the rim, and you heard Steve give his ringing endorsement. It's made to survive the canyon and suitable for any day hike on Earth. And with its front pockets and fully insulated hydration compartment, it's truly one of a kind. See why some are calling it backpack perfection. The Rim to Rim Pack, available exclusively at brightangeloutfitters.com. That's also where you'll find tons of free resources like the Grand Canyon Shade Tracker and our free ebook, A Beginner's Guide to Rim. At Bright Angel Outfitters, we exist to help you hike your best hike. All right, that's it for now. My name is Brian Special, encouraging you, as always, to go hike the canyon. Take that first step. Embrace the journey, and when you get there, whether it's for time goals or taking your time, just hike your own hike. Look around and take in the unrivaled magnificence of the Grand Canyon. We'll see you next time on the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show, presented by Bright Angel Outfitters.